Good evening. We'll call this meeting of the Lebanon Community School District Board of Directors to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, since we're still not back to a normal meeting, we are taking public comments by email. This week there were 3 submitted to me prior to 4 p.m. today, and they have been posted on the website for anybody to see. They're also included in the minutes and will show up there next go around. I'm hoping everybody's had a chance to review those. There were kind of common theme, folks that really want to see their students back in the classroom, and a couple other threads. One, there was some specific concern expressed about interaction with one board member, and I believe those parties have had some communication. And the other is a concern that the board is not listening to their concerns. So with that, I guess I would just add that I think probably all of you have had conversations with a number of people that have differing views, and our role is to look at all the options and chart the most appropriate course for the district, whether it's the course that we want or not. Oftentimes that's one of the hardest things about this role, is not being able to do what we would like to. So I would just add that even if a decision isn't what somebody wants, it's not that we're not listening. So we will continue to try to do our best to engage and communicate with everybody as much as possible. It's an important part of making this work.
Now, could I make a comment about the letters from last January's meeting?
Sure.
Because those were not read at the meeting.
They were summarized at the meeting.
Okay. Because I didn't read them till later, and they were good, all good letters. I was really appreciative of the students and the parents who commented on policy JBB and the All Students Belong policy. They were concerned about the, hate insignias or representations, and I was a bit short-sighted myself, because I think the problem personally deals with more with hate rather than it does with symbols. But I know symbols can trigger those things or those feelings in people. And I came from a family where we interacted with people from all over the world. My dad was a doctor in Seattle, and so was my wife's father. And so we never had, we didn't see color at all. But I've spoken to, I know some students in town here, ex-students of mine from years ago, who are, not Caucasian. They're from a different race, let's say. And they experienced some really harsh treatment when they came here, and were, bullied and so forth. So I certainly understand that, though I didn't see that from where, my experience, that other people do see it regularly. And I fully agree that I'm glad the board passed the All Students Belong policy, and I think it needs to be there so that we can somehow, at some point in our history, address, the real issue of hate. I think hate ought to be unconstitutional.
Well said. Thanks, Mike.
That's all I have.
Tom, is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Just having difficulty hearing you.
I blame the mask.
Thank you.
Okay. I see Craig has joined us. He's going to give us an update on what's happening with OSAA. I'm hoping you have some good news in terms of what our students are going to be able to do the next few months.
Right. So do I still have to do the whole announce myself thing? So Craig Haney, AD Assistant Principal, Lebanon High School. So yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
It's
Haney.
definitely been an interesting last week with the OSA. On 2 weeks ago Friday, they announced that the kids could come back indoors, non-contact. But at that time, because we were extreme risk county, the rule was you could have 6 kids in the gym at a time and they all had to be spaced by 25 feet, which a little problematic on running drills when you got to stay 25 feet apart. Luckily this week with the movement week, we moved down to the high risk county. So starting tomorrow, the coaches can go in based on the square feet of our gyms. We can have up to 50 people in the gym at a time. So our coaches can start running real drills inside. The issue is nobody else in our league or region, because we've combined with the Salem Kaiser schools this year to help with fluidity of games. They're still, Polk, Benton, Marion are all still extreme risk. So far it's just Southwest and us that can actually hold competitions indoors for volleyball this next season. So, and then yesterday Governor Brown made the statement that full contact football may be able to happen depending on the OHA guidelines that come out. We haven't seen those guidelines as of yet. We have to look at those once they come out. Again, we're a high-risk county. For her statement, as per her statement, high-risk and extreme counties are going to have to opt in, which will be a discussion that we'll have to have with Mr. Yates and Will at the business office. As a district, I would assume as much as we want kids to get back in the game, we would choose to opt in as long as we can meet the guidelines that they present us at the time, which could include on-site testing for kids who are symptomatic. So I called Helena, our trainer today, who works for Dr. Woolwood's office, and she's looking into the cost that might associate with that and those sorts of things. The reality is if kids and families, we educate them, they know don't send your kid to practice if they're symptomatic, we don't have to test them. So that'll be part of the process. So, but it looks like at least 11-on-11 Friday night football is back on the table. The OSA has condensed the sports season, so football actually started Monday. The rest of the regular fall sports, cross country, soccer have been given the go-ahead for full-on, you're ready to go. Volleyball, we're still, worried about the indoor. OSA is hopeful that the governor's office is going to come out with more conditions around indoor sports now that they have allowed full contact. So we're waiting for the other shoe to drop on that. But the reality is the kids are up, they're going, it's official, and we can start getting the kids back out and running around doing things. I went by the school about 4 o'clock today. It was 35 degrees out. We had about 75 football kids running around, and one kid even had his winter coat with the fur collar around it running around, and we had about 20 cross-country kids running around. I mean, that's how bad the kids want to get back out there, right? And cross-country is voluntary now because cross-country, volleyball, and soccer don't officially start till February 22nd. And then on April 5th, the usual spring sports can begin practices. And then on May 10th, what are our normal winter sports, basketball, wrestling, swimming. If they're allowed, they will begin on May 10th practices, but they'll actually go until the end of June, which means we'll be doing competition for about 3 weeks after school's out. So, but that's just in response to everything. Right now, Oregon's one of 4 states in the country that hasn't done any competitions so far. And the data that the governor's office is getting, that in all those other states, it's showing pretty clear that the amount of kids contracting COVID-19 that are doing high school athletics is lower than the overall age group percentage. So at least the accountability being with coaches and being screened and doing those types of things. So so for our district, I'm moving forward, but we're going to follow state guidelines, which I've been given the go-ahead to do from the superintendent's office all along, and then I'll report to Bo and Principal Swanson when things come up and follow the contact tracing and all that fun stuff that we get to do during this time. So that's about it. And every day we wake up in the morning, we find out we got to look at something different.
It is a moving target, that's
Yes,
for sure.
it is.
Well, I appreciate the update, Craig. That is definitely good news in the grand scheme of things. Do we, or have we heard if there will be any financial assistance in terms of testing or doing other things coming from the state?
We have not, and that's part of waiting on that OHA guidance and how they're going to, do those things. So right now it's a governor's statement, but we haven't seen the guidelines that'll come out of it from OHA. And once we get that, we'll have to decipher. One of the side benefits that we didn't really realize when we decided to do it, going with the Salem-Kaiser schools for kind of a regional concept, is we do hear things from their AD. We had a meeting today between their league and our league, and it's nice that the Salem-Kaiser ADs are hearing things from their legal counsel that go along with what we're hearing. It just gives us a little broader scope on what we can and can't do. And there was some good news that they mentioned. We'll see if it comes to fruition about transportation that could help mitigate costs of transportation, which is going to be a big part of this. So the other thing we have to consider is if we're the only high county and everybody else is stream county, what is our district stance going to be on it? While we can host games, are we going to allow schools and teams from extreme counties to come in and play our kids where it would be acceptable by OHA guidelines? But that would be our choice.
Is that acceptable for us to allow?
It would be, but it's our choice as a local school district if we'll allow it. So that was the last thing. And again, that's another one of those things that has been said but not put in writing yet. So.
Okay. Is there also the possibility that we could travel to some other counties that are not in extreme and play exhibition games?
Yeah, we can go wherever we want. Okay. And they wouldn't, officially this year we're not doing state championships and those types of things. We're just trying to give the kids the ability to get back out and play.
Yep.
So, yeah, part of the thing is the Bend School District's struggling right now because they're just, at the 6A level, there's only, 3-4 schools there. And so they're struggling finding games, and their district put 150 radius around them, miles-wise. But most of our schools fit in that, so we're looking at our scheduling when there's gaps. We're looking at participating with Bend and helping them fill games. But that's our choice as a local district. What are we willing to do with transportation? How far are we willing to go, and what type of costs that we agree to incur based on that. So, but it's kind of like what the governor's doing with, the whole COVID thing right now in general. The OSA has to kind of follow that suit, and really most of the decisions, as long as we can stay within state guidance, come down to our local school district and what we're willing or not willing to do.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Craig.
Anybody have anything else for Craig?
All right, guys. I do appreciate the work you're doing. It's a fun time. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have alternative contracting method. Will, we're going to talk a little bit. We're seeking approval to, rather than do a low bid, to do a CMGC contract for our seismic rehab work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I think we've
Chairman Oliver.
something that we've done a number of times in the past.
Yes,
so.
yeah, exactly. Chairman Oliver, members of the board, tonight the district is recommending the board adopt an alternative contracting method called Construction Manager General Contractor, or CMGC, for the LHS seismic upgrade project. This method of contracting has been in place for some time, as Chairman Oliver mentioned, and has a defined track record for success in the state of Oregon or in school districts around the state. I have on the phone tonight the district's expert on the topic, and that is David McKay. He is the principal in charge of HMK Company. HMK is in charge of the construction management of the LHS seismic upgrade process, and David and his team have been absolutely wonderful to deal with and to work with. So let me introduce David McKay. I'm going to put him on the mic. And David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let's try again, David.
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Great. Members of the board, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm here to give you an overview on the alternative contracting method. We've given you some information, but the Background behind this is that public bidding statutes really only recognizes one allowable contracting method, which is the hard bid method, which means that you design the project, you bid the project, and you award to the low responsive bidder. If you want to do an alternative contracting method, you have to go through this process that we're going through tonight, which is a finding of fact, the document you have in front of you, and this is for the CMGC, or the Construction Manager General Contractor Delivery Method. We are recommending this because we believe it's in the best interest of the district to be able to successfully complete this project this summer. One of the reasons for that is that we would select the CMGC, again, the Construction Manager General Contractor, right away, and we would enable them to work with the design team and us, HMK, to do destructive investigation, which will help us reduce unforeseen conditions. They also help us with phasing, and another term that we describe as value engineering. As the design team is looking at the solutions for the seismic rehabilitation upgrade project, the contractor is able to give us input into ways to accomplish what is being required that either are going to be more efficient in time, more economical, and so that helps us align the project so we can accomplish it in that 10-week summer building time. So that's the background on the public statute for public bidding. It's why we're asking you to consider this alternative contracting method. It is our recommendation that we would use this method. We believe it is the best method for this project. And with that, for the sake of time for your meeting, could I open it up to questions from the findings or the alternative contracting method or recommendation?
Thank you. I appreciate the findings being put together and that brief overview. As I indicated, we have some experience with this contracting vehicle. I've had the opportunity to manage several large projects under CMGC. The advice is sound. Having the contractor involved during the design process eliminates a lot of surprises at bid opening day when you have not had those that are tasked with doing the work actually involved in scoping and designing it. So I don't know if anybody has any specific questions, but if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the findings of fact and adopt the resolution such that we can proceed with CMGC on the seismic rehabilitation project.
Just a question of clarity. The way I understand it, we're actually, the CMCG, I think that's what it's called, method releases us from the low bid option.
Correct.
And also provides us things like value engineering.
Correct.
And some maybe opportunities to upgrade in some areas or not spend money in areas where we probably don't need to. So it might be cost saving also. Is that kind of the nuts and bolts of it?
Did you hear the question, David?
Yes. I believe I heard the question, and the answer is yes.
There's nothing else in there we need to know?
Could you repeat that question for me, Will?
Yeah, nothing else that we need to know?
Well, I think this, One of the things we'll work with the CMGC to do is to make sure that we have competition for the various scopes involved with the project. And we will work with the general contractor, the CMGC, to actively recruit local contractors so that we can try to leave the money as much as possible in the local community.
Yeah, to add to that, the work will still generally all be bid. It's just there's no mandate that the lowest bid is accepted. It's the best overall bid. And this process tends to provide a lot of transparency and clarity that you don't necessarily get in a hard bid job. You also tend to have far fewer change orders in a CMGC situation. You are able to negotiate certain general conditions, other parts of the contract.
So it is opened up to bidding, but just not confined to the lowest bid.
Correct.
And
Yes.
and there is, would we actually in that process be hiring a general contractor to run the whole show and then sub out?
That's exactly.
Yes. So the CMGC is, in essence, the general contractor. They're responsible for assembling bid packages and putting those bid packages out to the market for subcontractor bids. They'll collect all those on a hard closing date and time, and then it's fully open book where all those bids will be presented to the school district, and we will work with them to determine which is the best subcontractor bid to choose, which takes into consideration more than just cost.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Richard, Tammy?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
So what would be the other considerations besides cost, just to give me an idea, and who makes that decision? Is it still relegated to an admin team or the general contractor?
The general contractor would make recommendations. We would be working, HMK would be working with them, and we would review the recommendation, and then working with the school district, we would bring that forward. For instance, one of the considerations could be is the breadth of a contractor's scope of work, making sure that they have, say, not only all the labor, but they have all the material, they have all the parts and pieces. It allows you to do a deeper analysis of those subcontractor bids, because often subcontractors have exclusions and inclusions, and you need to be able to take those into consideration to determine what is the best bid package to accept. So the general contractor, HMK, will be working together we will then bring those recommendations forward to the school district with a rationale on why. This is what we do is represent owners as an owner's project manager with a singular focus on K-12 schools. So we have a lot of experience doing this, it's kind of a common thing that we do with the projects in the current market that we're in.
That's all I had. Thank you.
And if he's already said this, just say he's already said this. But what specifically is his firm doing in this?
So he's the construction project manager. He's the
Their project manager?
He's our project manager.
He's the project manager, and what that does is their firm basically runs all of the RFPs, the whole process for the district. And then they provide all of the opportunities, and for example, I'll just give you an example of what's going on right now. We're doing the bid process for the contractors. So David and his team have gone out and done the RFP, they've done all of the meetings, and so they're running that process, and then David's going to run the RFP all the way through the end. And what that means is we'll go through the specification of the contract, we're working with the architects, the engineers, the other designers, so he's basically managing that whole process. And then
they will run the whole show?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. It's really worked fantastic, and I've been very impressed with their firm. Their skill set is next to none. It really is.
And what is this firm?
It's HMK Company is the name of it. And we've talked about this before because I came back and the board approved the HMK as the contract manager for this project.
Okay, thanks.
If I could just share one added piece. We bring our expertise and in many ways act as an agent for the school district, but we do not have signatory authority. So we will always be bringing recommendations forward to the school district with a rationale on why. So for instance, if it was a change order, we would bring forward, after reviewing it, a recommendation, a rationale, and then the school district would either accept it, modify it, or reject it, and then move forward. So we bring our expertise to manage a project from the concept all the way through to the closeout.
So the board would just approve the plan, and then that would be, our part would be done. Is that correct?
Your part is approving this process tonight, which is to go with the alternative bidding, and then most of the items that are over $250,000 per purchasing rules, then I'd bring that back to the board. So that's going to be things like contractor, the main contractor. Once we get that RFP completed, I'll bring that back to the board for approval.
Yeah, this process does not give up any of our role in approving those individual contracts.
Right.
And HMK and the district have a great relationship. When we're meeting consistently. So we've had district representation at every meeting that they've had, and we're working great together. The lead on this project is a retired school district maintenance director. So at the end of the day, he knows exactly what we need, and so it's really kind of a great symbiotic relationship between us and HMK.
Yeah, the owner's rep project manager is a key piece of success of any project. You know, in addition to handling the administrative piece, they bring the war wounds and the battle scars of having been through this many times before, and they help balance, you know, what the contractor says, what the architect says, and what the owner wants. So it's a key role.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the findings of fact and adopt the CMGC process for the seismic rehabilitation project as presented. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I believe that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Will.
Okay. We're going to have a CIA update. I have to do a double take every time I see it.
No.
It's not as glamorous as
It is glamorous.
CIA, yeah. It's good to be here in person.
Thank you,
Kinda
Tammy.
weird.
It is kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we compiled some data for what we're hoping to be a quarterly report, and so this is kind of we're hoping that this is a format that you like and that we can continue to use moving forward. But what we did here is we captured, and I hope you have had a chance to look at this because it is a lot of detail, but just ask me questions if you need them answered. So the very first thing you're looking at is the enrollment totals and the average attendance for our K-5 school, K-5, K-8, all of our elementary schools. The blue represents the 18-19 school year, and then red represents 19-20, and then the gold is the 2021. I'm not sure if there's anything in there that you would like me to explain specifically, but we weren't surprised by this information.
Yeah, there's no surprises here,
Yeah.
right? I think these numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Enrollment is down, no surprise there, and attendance is about what we would expect, right? It's down, not as much as enrollment, and it's better at the elementary level
Yeah.
than it is at middle school or high school.
Yeah, you got it. Well, one surprise, I think, for me anyway, was that our average attendance is so similar to what it has been, over the last numbers of years. So it was really interesting to me that that's rather flatline. That's good. So the kids that are coming. Yeah, so you've got your 7 Oak breakdown, same thing, and then the high school. And then the last slide that we threw in that you do not have in your packet is the overall district enrollment, because it gives you the hard numbers, and I think that those are really important for us to understand and look at. And I'm happy to share this with you if you would like that.
Okay.
It's just it's on a Google Doc, and so, we understand that having 400 students less is very significant for our district. So,
Do you know off the top of your head where we were 17, 18? We were higher than 18, 19 then also, weren't we?
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
We have that data.
Right.
Yeah. So that gives you the overall attendance and enrollment over the last 3 years. So
And that's not ADM, that's,
right. That is just hard
this
numbers.
is just
of kids.
hard enrollment. This
Yep,
is not, none of the calculations that come
Right.
into play on the financial side of things.
Right. So you're missing
Okay.
your special
Okay,
ed,
that's-
weighted membership, and all
Wait,
that.
because those numbers were, the ones rattling around in my brain are higher than that, but that it describes illustrates
Yeah.
the difference, so thank you.
Right, because of that 3,432 students, there's an average weighted membership that, would go along with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so the next one in your packet should be the STAR data, and we have really pushed, uphill with STAR, but we're, staying the course as best we can. What you see here is a breakdown of the 2nd through 5th grade fall to winter comparison for the last 3 years. And even if you don't really look at the percentages, you can kind of just look at the changing color and see that we didn't make a lot of growth this year from fall to winter, which for us is not a good thing. We typically make our most growth between fall and winter. And even if you look back beyond 18-19, it's the same pattern. But that too is not a surprise for us, and we're hoping to get out of the 40s and the 50 percentiles. We want our kids to be more of our kids to be above the 50th percentile.
Well, and I guess to me what's telling when I look at that, okay, we didn't slip a lot in the at or above benchmark, but that urgent intervention number had a pretty significant increase.
Yeah.
That's the trouble spot for sure, right?
And those numbers are based off of, so those are it's not like we're comparing year to year to year.
Right.
These are like a benchmark year and then working through it.
Snapshot in the, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We made some significant improvement when we were able to have kids in class drop those kids out of the high-risk category, shrink those up, get to, what are we, about 73, 74% in the green and orange, and shrink up that bottom part. And then COVID and So that those next marks aren't compared to the rest of the country or schools in this situation. They're compared to us previously.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the red zoners are typically, of course, our most challenging, both with attendance and just general academic performance overall, So then the second chart is your 6th through 8th grade. We had about 120 some 9th graders that took the assessment, but it just wasn't quite enough, so we didn't include them in this data. But this was our 6th through 8th grade performance. And again, we didn't do as well. We did worse actually for winter of this year, which isn't our typical trend. So the first two charts are reading, and then the next two are math. And it's the same comparison, same everything, just a different subject. Second through 5th grade, and then 6th through 8th grade.
Tammy, do we know how we compare to other districts in Oregon, similar to ours? I mean, because I know this is kind of an off year with the COVID. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious how everybody else is trending.
Yeah, I do not know.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't looked at like comparisons like that. I mean, since this is pre-pandemic, it's really kind of hard to norm it now, But I couldn't even venture to guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume they're not doing as well.
Right. Right.
But we will have STAR data though, because many schools are taking the STAR assessment across the country now. Whether they're doing it the fall, winter, spring, and being true to the schedule like we are, that will help know the norms and how we compared overall.
Okay. I was quite frankly, I'm not as surprised as I thought I might have been. We've been up against a difficult challenge, the last year or two.
Yeah.
So,
it
seems like the guys in the above benchmark are staying there, but those bottom three are just shuffling.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, for sure.
You're also seeing that where our attendance is lower, we're losing more ground. So, that just emphasizes we need to be doing something else, specifically with our 6th through 8th grade. That's a big challenge there. And Richard, I think it's good for us to. I mean, it's good to see what other districts are doing and where they're at. But I think it'd be really helpful for the board for you guys to hey, we benchmarked against a certain year. Are we getting better or are we not getting better? Right. Not just comparing ourselves to other districts, but are we getting better results at each grade level?
I mean, ultimately, you're right. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious what that trend is, locally and in Oregon, maybe nationally, but
having the same socioeconomic group comparative, right, where we need to be. I think those are good things to know, but at the end of the day, my perspective is we've got to get better results, and we've got to be able to move regardless of who comes to school in Lebanon. We've got to keep getting better, and we've made some I felt like we made some pretty good gains in that second year. Particularly from fall to winter, but now, we've given up some of that. I think the other thing that we really have to address is our ability to run a quality summer school for kids, because if your kids are low SES, you're going to lose a couple months worth of instruction over the summer. So we were able to do some of those things. So I anticipated seeing us move even further down, so I think some of the stopgap measures we took kind of helped, but that doesn't change where we're at right now.
Well, and you bring up a good point. Our summer school, I think we have a fantastic program. I think we've done exceptionally well there.
We've jumped into it, and we're continuing to refine it, but
that always gets further.
And I think it's just going to be super important for our kids this year that Tammy and myself and Jen, we've been working on summer school plans, trying to do put 3 3-week sessions together. So, we want kids to we don't want this to be in the same spot next year. We want to see a much bigger, we want that thing squished, right? I think that's technically fine.
Well, and I think
Yeah,
it was,
I believe there's a certain percentage that goes with that, so.
you know, and we would totally expect our data to improve for spring simply because of the testing environment itself. If we can have kids face to face, I mean, these kids went over milestones to take this assessment in the fall and the winter time, talking Zoom, you know, breakout rooms, but they still were able to keep relatively, you know, we weren't like totally, we had no idea how tragic it would be, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, too. Our teachers did an amazing job of getting
That
these kids.
is a testament to our teachers
Oh
and our
my
distance learning program that was put together. Jen and Jeremy did an awesome job. So, yeah, I know we're super anxious to keep moving forward, but that's a bright spot, I think.
Yeah, it is a bright spot. So we'll see how we do in the spring. We should really be able to celebrate, if nothing else because of the testing environment, you know, but that's the first step. Okay, so the next thing then we have for you it's a grade distribution for Seven Oak Middle School. And basically the chart itself is looking at the grade, the actual number of students that have those grades. And again, it follows sort of that same pattern of color. So language arts is your blue. Then you've got math in that orange, science in the gray, and then social studies in that gold color. And
so both the high school and 7 Oak, you'll see that there's a no grade section on here. They're still trying to work with kids to try to
So that's what
make up credits.
those are kids that would certainly be Fs if they hadn't been given more opportunity
That's
to
exactly
extend.
right.
Yeah.
So we have a full quarter of our students that are failing.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you'll see is there'll be multiple Fs, right? It's
Yep.
a lot of kids that are achieving, showing up, doing the work, and then we have students that have fallen off. And it's been a monumental task for both the high school and 7 Oak. They've sent out teams to knock on doors several times a week trying to make sure kids are participating. I mean, it's been an all hands on deck situation, and they've worked really hard trying to improve that.
So looking at math, for example, at 7 Oak, we seem to have far more Fs than the other grades or the other courses, and far fewer not graded. Does that mean we are not necessarily consistent with what we're doing in each subject area in terms of providing extra time to those students?
It could be grade level, specific grade level, but I'd say that's accurate, Tom.
Okay. So I'm assuming that's something we're taking a look at.
We are.
Okay.
And what's the no grade, NG?
Those are kids that are basically, we're trying to work with them to get enough work done to give them credit for the class.
So those are, I mean, thinking about that right now, those are Fs that just haven't been given their F yet. They've been given more time to try to fix that.
And how long do they have?
Individual teachers are working with students, so I think it's pretty much.
But I mean, these would be for the semester, the previous
For
semester.
the semester, yeah.
You're right.
So we're already going into the next semester. Are those NGs going to eventually turn into Fs, or?
They probably will.
They won't go on the transcript as an F, is what I understand.
Yeah, that's kind of the guidance from ODE for.
Oh, so they
This
may
year
just
during
stay
distance
NGs
learning.
or incomplete.
No Fs during
No, they
distance
will
learning
not be-
except for our math students?
They won't be an incomplete.
Yeah,
Oh, they
I
could
don't
be an
know why they're on
incomplete.
there, Tom.
Okay.
There are incompletes on there, and those are for students that are closer to being able to pass. And the no grade won't, from what I understand, won't be transcripted.
Will be what?
Won't be on the transcript as an F because of guidelines from the state.
So what would it be on the transcript at?
Nothing. There wouldn't be
Like it never
credit.
happened.
Oh, they just would not even have the course there.
Right.
Oh.
That's what I understand. I could be wrong. Bo probably knows more than I do about that part.
Well, I think part of the thing with middle school was there were some students that just didn't make an effort or and they felt like they should have had a,
But that changes everything. That's 30% of
Yeah.
500 students,
Yeah.
which means you're looking at, what, 150 students roughly. That's a pretty rough number.
Well, if we look at, let's just take D and above. We have a huge percentage of the students that are going to need more than what they're getting right now, right? And not that I want to say C is the bar, but that's a passing grade, right?
Right.
I mean, I suppose technically a D is, but if we look at what we're going to have to do for supports for students, there's our number right there, right?
yeah.
For sure.
I mean, some of those students might be working on that no grade right now. Like they might
Right.
actually have submitted some work and they've actually moved up their grade, or their second semester grade would reflect some improvement. So maybe we can report at the 9-week time where we are in this distribution again. But yeah, it's a lot. And I know the teachers are scrambling trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between what they did not get their previous year. Because that's going to be a challenge.
Just it, right? They fail their math in 6th grade. Well, 7th
Yeah.
grade is not going to go swimmingly.
Right, exactly.
There's going to have to be that catch
Yeah,
up.
differentiation, and there's a cumulative effect.
Yeah.
It hurts your, as you get old, as you go up, it really restricts your master schedule and the things that you can do in your school. So
Does the chart represent within it the 21% absentee rate?
not within the grades.
What's that?
Not within the grade, it doesn't,
Oh.
yeah, it doesn't.
Well, so these students that are not attending are still getting grades.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we
So-
could take a look at, I mean,
So they are in there.
Yes, I think to that point, yeah, I think you're right. There is some of that. But at the end of the day, it's the same problem. Those kids aren't ready for what comes next, right?
Right, so they were enrolled, they were an active student, but there was no,
So I said, when a kid had an F, they usually had multiple Fs, and
Yep.
we had teams working to try to support them.
And they stay on the rolls, even if they don't show up. So those are the same, probably the same kids. The ones that aren't showing up are getting no grades.
right?
And so what is going to be different in a few weeks when we're back in the classroom for those kids that weren't showing up for Zoom, right? They weren't logging into Canvas. Do we think they're going to show up and be in the hallways at 7 Oak?
We're hoping that they will. I mean, we're sending teams of people out to knock on doors to try to find the kids and get them to school.
Yep. I mean, at
We're
what,
hoping that the social aspect of being there will provide some incentive for them to participate.
at what point do we have some other tool, truancy officer, something, I'm assuming those all exist still. How do we,
Well, was a law somewhere, in the past years anyway, where it said, 10 days and they were dropped.
Correct.
That's not, so right now, we're not doing that.
so
much.
that's suspended because of COVID, right?
Because of COVID, if a student hasn't showed up, we do not drop them until someone requests their records from us.
So what do we do with a student, right now, let's say they're 30% of them, when they show up next September to enroll and they don't have any grades, are they going to repeat the 6th grade?
Well, I think our biggest deal is trying to get those kids to engage somehow, whether it be in person or whatever.
They don't, and they show up and they have no grades and no transcript from this year.
Yeah,
Will
we'll
they
have to,
repeat the 6th
Give them an
grade?
there's
assessment.
nothing magic. We're going to have to use 6th grade curriculum.
Well, I mean, whose decision is that ultimately to say, okay, this student did not attend all year, but they're still enrolled? Well, you get a bonus 6th grade year.
I think we take it individually. I mean, that student might be able to pass an assessment and have the skills. Could be a tag student for all we know. So,
Right.
yeah, there's no hard and fast rules on that, and we're supposed to be really, we should be, not punish kids because of this situation they're in. So we would look and see what would be best for the students.
Yeah, I would say it would not be punitive, but we would not want to give them a pass either and put
No.
them
Right.
into a position where they're going to
Right?
they're going to fail, or it's going to be a greater burden on everybody else around them to try to float that.
There's no incentive
Right,
for anybody to achieve anything other than a P.
right.
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us.
No doubt.
Across the nation.
When we, yeah, I mean, and this is not a uniquely Lebanon problem, and I don't know that I feel any better about, that being the case. It doesn't solve it, but I would be curious to see these numbers with the students that are not regular attenders excluded.
Okay.
I think that would be very helpful to make some comparison to what the performance has been of the comprehensive distance learning versus our traditional model. And I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but at least we're going to have a handle on, are we still looking at 30% failure? Well, probably not.
We may also want to start looking at kindergarten and 12th grade, in the respect that there are a lot of parents that are holding their kindergartners out, and they can enroll, they're 5 years old, they can enroll as 6-year-olds. So if they're enrolling as 6-year-olds, we could have a huge bump in the number of kindergartners, and a huge bump for kindergartners. According to the kindergarten teachers I know, it's like 5 students. 5 more students in their class, and all of a sudden everything changes. Yep. And what was the number? 22,000, almost 500,000 students in Oregon, roughly maybe 450 or something like that. 22,000 have not enrolled in school in Oregon, of which 1/3, or 7,000 roughly, are kindergartners.
Yeah.
So now where they are in the state, I have no idea. But let's say there's more in Lynn County, then we're got problems. We need to keep that in the back of our minds anyway, because those kids could even enter kindergarten probably late 6-year-olds, 6 years 8 months, 6 years, which would give us a huge bulge there, and the opposite could happen in 12th grade. Mm-hmm. Kids just aren't ready and aren't going to graduate. I don't know how they stay on any longer, but it could create a demographic problem.
Yeah, I think it would be great if more kindergartners came.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
I
That'd
don't
be
see a
problem to
negative
have.
there.
Yes.
We are looking at, we've had some conversations in regards to maybe we need to have 2 graduations this summer, one at the start and one at the end. So kids that are on track, we can graduate, and kids that need another 6 weeks of instruction to get things completed, and we could have another ceremony towards the end of the summer. So we're looking at different options of what we can do, and it's like all the things we've been trying to do up to this point times 4, basically. Right, we're trying to do summer school to help kids no matter where they're at. The kiddos that aren't showing up, we're sending people out to knock on the door to try to find them. We have a full-time person that does nothing but attendance and truancy. That hasn't really helped us all that much, to tell you the truth.
Have we brought a certain number back? I mean, since the beginning of the school year, have we brought back 50 kids?
No, I don't think we haven't had a tremendous amount of kids come back. I mean, there's no incentive for them. If they've already decided, hey, we're going to do another online program, they're going to do that online program until we probably go in person.
Yeah.
What's the option that a parent has? And I think if a parent is reasonable, we're going to get those kids back. If a parent doesn't care, those are the kids I'm really worried about, and those are the kids that aren't showing up. And those are kiddos that were, there's a sunk it's a sunk cost. We've paid money for education to go towards helping them learn 6th grade math, and now we're going to have to do it again. And each time we pay for that, it's about $700 for a half credit, $1,400 for a full credit. So,
But even the patient parents, they aren't going to wait forever for us to get back to school. They're already looking at options, a lot of them, private schools and those kind of things. And I just have to keep repeating myself and say, I think we need to be back in school.
One thing I was going to
Sooner than later.
that I wanted to add, I think I'm done, but because of Lebanon Online, it's been an interesting way because we kind of mix people up, and in order for people to understand what kids' abilities are, they're actually, really looking at those assessments that we can use to assess a kiddo when they first come to the table. What are their skills? So anyway, that's something that we will definitely rely on even more. So we already do that with students. We assess them at the beginning of the school year, but we will really have to use that data more because you can't spend weeks trying to figure out where a kiddo is in every regard. So, excellent. You guys have any more questions on this information? So we'll bring what you wanted, Tom, to the next
Okay.
one. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk a whole bunch specifically about LHS, but it's pretty much the same story.
Yeah, we need to get that U to be a bell-shaped curve.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate the data, even when it's not what we want to see.
and I would say I'm much more concerned, from a financial standpoint, the high school, those kids have to attain credits. So if they don't attain those credits, that is
They don't have a lot of time, right?
Right.
I mean,
And that's
at Seven Oak, we have some time to get those students back on track. Those high school students,
that's right.
Yes, snow that's melting. You only have
yes.
so much
Yeah,
time.
that's-
So each
Exactly.
department is working on recovery efforts. We can do proficiency-based grading. We're trying to look at every option that we can put out there. A lot of school districts last year just did not do anything but award credit.
I mean, that's not doing any favors.
No.
Yeah.
But whatever we do, as we move forward, we're going to be responsible in how we handle it, and we're going to if a student is behind, we're going to support them, and we're going to aggressively support them. Right now, it's just very difficult to do some of that if we can't get participation. So,
Well, it's going to be seat time is what it comes down to, right? I mean, there's not a whole other ways to accomplish that.
well, some kids have done, this has worked out fine for them.
Sure.
But then we have other kids that, that we had a hard time engaging before that have just been able to, totally disengage.
Yep. Okay. So next up, Lebanon Online.
Yeah, we
I didn't see anything in the packet.
nope. It's just should be quick, but
Okay.
we have Lebanon Online School right now, which is not. It's a school within a school, so we have students K through 8. There's about 400 kids. We have 14 teachers who have chosen to remain online.
Okay.
And a lot of those want that opportunity moving forward. And
So we're hearing from these students that even potentially next school year, they want to continue that online model?
correct.
How
So
400 students?
400?
that's K-8. We I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head for how many are at the high school. That might have to be a little bit of a different model. We're still working on what that would look like just because of this, the credits and the staffing and all that entails high school. But the request is we would like to apply for a school number with the state, and that would allow us to have this as its own school. The data would be contained
Yes.
with, all the things that a school has. It would be its own school. Right now, all the data is under, the kids are either attached to Cascades or Seven Oak for the middle school kids. And so we would like your approval to apply for a school number.
Well, I think that's important. If we're going to do this, we need to be able to track it and really see
Yes.
what it's doing. And that's going to show up on the report cards that the public sees, and that's important for those that are interested in this model or the traditional model to have a clear snapshot of what performance looks like in either option, right? And I guess I would say intuitively, the online students are the ones with families that are engaged or in actually opting to do something other than the default choice. Presumably, we're going to see increases in the performance here and a corresponding decrease, if you take those out of the rest of the school. So I mean, we need to be prepared to understand what that's going to look like across the board as we carve that up.
Yes. There are multiple reasons why folks have chosen that, and some plan to go back next year to school, but not a large majority. It's enough. I have no doubt that we will have enough to continue with the full school, and then hopefully attract folks back that have gone to other online schools or want an online school, because people have determined that it works for them. They've learned, and maybe it works for their family. They like the flexibility. We want it to be a really great experience, and it is right now. It's what we've been doing, and we're going to continue. We're going to improve it so that it's when we can have kids in person. Families want to get together and do social events, possibly have a parent-teacher club. All the things you do for a normal school. But it will be virtual.
So the approval is for what exactly?
We have to apply for a school number from the state in order to...
Like 9J or whatever, like that?
No, we're 9J as a district. Each school has an ID number.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same, if we were to build another elementary school, it's the same process that we would go through.
Oh. So what's the minimum number or maximum number we can have? Are there any minimums or maximums? If it drops down to 200 kids or 100 kids, do we have the choice to stop doing it if it becomes non-viable?
Oh, I assume so. I think we could always close a school.
Well, and to that point, you're spot on, Mike. We need to. I think it is appropriate to go down this path, but we're going to have to be constantly assessing that to make sure that we can maintain that presence and not do so at the detriment of the district overall. Right.
Yeah, we don't want the tail wagging the dog. The other thing is if the online school produces the numbers we're seeing now, then the board needs to review it and decide whether we should continue.
Well,
if we have 30% failure rate, then we need to make some decisions about counseling and having children
certainly
moving to a place where they're more productive, because obviously they're not being productive there. And we could see the same numbers. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I don't disagree with that, but that's not going to happen because we're going to do everything we can to make kids be successful.
Right.
Looked at the data all day today, so we're setting up math groups, reading groups.
Previously is going to be right. The kids are going to do much better. They'll be the ones that like online learning.
Well, some of them do, and some of them still struggle, but we'll intervene and give them the services they need. They're getting title services, SPED services, EL services, counseling, tag.
They have access to everything that the kids in the buildings would have.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great. It's pretty exciting, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, we have a pretty high percentage of families that do homeschool in Lebanon, so there's another 300 students that we can go out and attract to work with and give them a better option than what they'll probably be able to get somewhere else. So having something that is local, that might give a student that is doing homeschooling, but we have the ability to meet and do work together in small groups. We're able to do some science stuff together. We can build that where it makes more sense for people. And I think the people that are a part of that are very interested in their child's education, and they want to have more say in it. So we're looking at, there's a couple different groups we're looking at. Number one, there's homeschool families that specifically want the curriculum that they want, and that we want to be able to support them and work with them and give them some access to Lebanon Community School District and work with them. And then there's families that want to just do an online program and utilize our curriculum all the way through. And so being able to blend and do some things, so, hey, my student is taking, 60% of their classes online, but they're going up to the land lab for 2 periods a day to do.
Yeah, that could be to our advantage.
And that's just providing a better education, more flexible education for our community. And I think when you look and you get frustrated that, hey, we have all these kids that aren't doing well, it's really difficult when we don't have kids that show up or turn on their computer. This is not. It is a challenge, and it's something we're going to have to nothing's going to make it go away other than just us grinding and trying to work with parents, trying to get them to support what we're trying to do, and almost make it difficult for them to fail. We're going to do summer programs. We're going to do after-school programs. Some of the things we talked about with trying to get our kids to read by grade 3 grade level, we have resources to put towards those things. So I guess my only frustration is this has been a crappy year. And we're at the point right now where we're almost getting kids back, and now we have groups of people that are telling us, you need to do that, or you need to do this, or we need to do that. What we need to do is all work together, because this is a long road that we're going to be on. So I know there's people that are frustrated that why aren't you back in person right now? Well, we had to make a decision based off of best information. Not everybody agrees with it, but I know all of you have supported it, and I appreciate that. But what we do from here moving forward, we have to have those parents that were outside that were upset. Those parents have got to come back in and be incredibly supportive and participate and work with us.
They don't feel that they've been listened to, though, for some reason.
Because you don't get your way doesn't mean you're not being listened to. I have just as many people on the other side of it that are like, why are you going back at all? We want our kids just doing online.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So there's a reasonableness to it, and our reasonableness was based off of, for me, when we did our comeback plan, it was based off of our teachers being able to get that first round of vaccination based off of what Governor Brown had said, and then having the timing to get the second, and we were going to start right after that. When that was pushed back 3 weeks, then all the other things moved back 3 weeks, and we've stayed the course with that. We've been out of school for a year now.
I know.
So it doesn't make sense to me to take a shortcut to bypass, keeping our staff together and working together. And that was the decision I made. And if people are upset with it, I don't want them to be upset at the board. I don't want them to be upset with principals. I want them to be upset with me, because everybody needs to be able to work together.
But I think part of the listening, I think for the parents is, for example, paraphrasing at the beginning of the meeting, what a parent's letter says is far different than reading their letter. And, we read every word of the teacher's comments when they were trying to settle their contract, and we listened to what Ruth read 8, 9 letters. And a parent's letter, we had 8 or 9 or 10 of those at the last meeting. They came at 4:45, and I didn't get them that night, because I was already headed, basically thinking about coming down, and I had done my, due diligence with the board work. So I didn't know about any of the things that were said.
Just to clarify, those were delivered to everybody at 4 p.m. prior to the board meeting.
Right.
And
yes.
we very clearly went over that in the meeting.
Did we read them out loud?
We did not read verbatim every single letter.
That's what I'm saying, though. But just the comment of reading each one out loud as we gave the teachers, would be a fair shake for the parents. You know, they got heard evenly.
Well, it had nothing to do with parents or teachers. It had to do with process and making it a little bit more workable for everybody. There's a difference between, we set a time limit on a comment. There's no way to get the entirety of the letter, and I can't give somebody the nod and say, hey, make your point. The idea here is to have a balanced approach, and that is why the expectation is that everybody at this table was to read those prior to the start of the meeting and let that guide our decision, just like all the conversations that we individually had with some of those parents before the meeting. And that's why the entirety of those are also in the meeting minutes.
Well, I think that's the argument that parents would have, though, that they weren't read at the meeting. I'm just relaying message, I'm just saying how I would feel too. If my letter wasn't read and because I didn't read it at 4 o'clock, that's bad timing just in general, because the full board packet is supposed to be delivered to us by Friday before. That's been the protocol. Mm-hmm. And so those letters coming in an hour or 2 hours before the meeting are too late. They're too late for me. Now, if they came in at 4 o'clock and then they were delivered at 4:10, it's just bad timing and bad luck. But I didn't get a chance to read them. I didn't know they were there until after the meeting, because I don't check back into district email an hour before the meeting. I've downloaded the packet on Monday or Tuesday. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel their frustration. There's nothing we want more than to have the kids back in school. And we've had long conversations about that with all of my leadership team. We have a passion for working with kids and having them in school. So, I feel horrible about our, not having kids there, but I have to balance that with what we're doing long term too, Mike. And there's not a good answer for this. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation, but at the end of it,
it's all the changes.
What we want to have is everyone rowing in the same direction and everyone understanding what we're trying to do, because when we start back, our kids are going to be there 5 days a week, not 2 days a week. We have a better plan. We're going to, do everything we can for kids. We've kind of established that over the last, 18 months.
While we're here, and maybe we don't want to go.
Well, and let's hold on a second. That's good conversation, but we're dealing with the Lebanon online. Staff has requested approval to apply for the school number. Let's get through that and further this conversation a little bit later in the discussion. So.
And I think this is respectful and listening to the families that want a different option. So you can look at it that way too. To have this option for families.
I think it's a great option.
I would agree, and I would entertain a motion to approve the request to submit for a number for the Lebanon Online School.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's work our way through the consent agenda. First up are the January 14th meeting minutes. And once again, if you look at the very beginning of those, there's a summary of the comments, and the comments are all included in the package. Do you have any changes for the January 14th meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion we accept the January 14th, 2021 minutes as published.
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, we have some meeting minutes. Same drill, January 28th.
So moved.
Thank you.
What's that now?
Do you have a second?
I was reading, what's the motion?
To approve the January 28th special meeting minutes.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you, Mike.
The short one.
I was looking at, no.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, I think that's unanimous. We now have some policies for first reading. It looks like the majority of these are housekeeping.
Yes, they are.
Do you have a summary for us?
There should be one in
Assistant
there.
Superintendent Meckley, I know.
Yep.
It's a very nice summary. Would you like to add anything to it?
No, I would not.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff on any of those policies that are presented for first reading?
When they say delete, when you're saying delete policy, though, I had a question. We're not deleting the policy, we're deleting the AR.
We're deleting that AR and putting a new AR in.
In its place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
If there are no questions for staff, I'd entertain a motion to approve those on first reading.
First reading. So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I thought I heard an aye down there. Thank you, Tammy. All right, next up, we have some policies on second reading. So this is the last go-around for these. Anybody have any further questions on these policies?
None.
Okay. Who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading on the policies
Thank you.
as stated.
I second.
All right, it's a clean sweep for Richard and Mike tonight on approval on policies. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All right, thank you. Okay. We have some hiring, so some temporary hires to work through the rest of the year, and presumably we also have one leave of absence, but these hirings are to support the kind of redistribution we did to run both online and in-person school in parallel. Is that
That's
a
correct.
safe assessment?
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct.
Anybody have any questions for staff? No? Just need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, once again. Tammy, you're missing out.
Okay.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. We have some hires. Department reports. Operations.
I was hoping we could wrap back around and touch base with, I had shared with you previously the possibility of going out and doing a bond just basically for maintenance of our buildings and also some refurbishment of the swimming pool. This is in the governor's budget. The money is there for those matching monies. At least it's projected to be there. So if we were able to go out, we would probably have $4 to $5 million that would be matching monies, and I think that would be worth our while to go through that process, see if we can get the community to support. $6 million, not a very large amount of money, in the big picture, but it could do a lot of good for us to be able to maintain our buildings, our roofs, and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get your feel for it, and what I'd like to do is next time Will and I can bring back kind of a presentation so you can see this is what our long-term plan for buildings is. This is where we need to address some of the issues, and this is what the price points would be, and either kind of push us to go see if we can pursue this and make it happen, or no, let's push this off a year and see if we can come back and do it then. I'm totally good with either one because it's a lot of bloody work to get the thing going and make it work, but I think it's super important. We have we just have some things that we could do to improve our district. And so the items that I have on there are like our pool, being able to add a few classrooms onto 7 Oak, and then the general maintenance of the rest of the buildings within the district. So
the idea here is we would be a couple things at play. One, there's the potential for over $4 million in matching money that would be able to bring to the community. That the only way to get that is to pass a bond. We've got to have some skin in the game. Two, we have some maintenance needs, and we also have the pool that is in significant need of work. We have the aquatics district that is exploring their options. So this is an opportunity to work together and get the best return on those dollars if the community decides they want to spend any money. And that's the real question, and it's not one for us to answer. I think this is more a matter of, do we want to explore asking that question? And I'm certainly in favor of exploring that. I don't know what the end result of that is going to be, but I don't think it would hurt to go down that path and take a look at, make sure we have the needs clearly defined, make sure we know what the path looks like to get there, and start having some conversation about it. And your guess is as good as mine as to where that conversation is going to go, right?
I'd like to see. When we get one, hard numbers on each, as hard as we can possibly get, and with a pretty sharp pencil on what each maintenance item is. What is the plan for the classroom? 1 classroom, 3 classrooms, whatever, what that's going to cost, and everything's separated out. So that we can see it like a menu. Like, this is what the pool is going to cost.
Sure, we can do a line item budget and put all those things in place. And I think it's just fair to kind of throw out there, I know after we had our conversation during the board meeting last month, I think the aquatics group might have felt like we weren't going to move in that direction. So if we're going to have a pool, we're going to have to raise some money to do that, whether they work with the school district or not. I think it's definitely in the community's best interest for us to work together to get the matching monies, but also I just couldn't imagine taking the amount of money out of the community to build a new swimming pool somewhere else. To me, that doesn't make sense. I don't think it makes sense to the aquatics group either. They want to work with us and move forward. So.
Well, I agree. I think the pool belongs to the school district, and it is incumbent upon us to take care of all of our facilities. If that is in that state of disrepair, then we need to invest some money to repair it. Now, how much, I don't know, but without hard numbers, then we can't even think about too closely to moving toward a bond or anything, although I know that the matching money is out there, so that's another incentive for us to move forward in that direction. But we really need to know what needs to be done, what we can get for the money. I'm a little concerned about mixing a maintenance budget in there. That's why I want things separated, so we can take a look at it, because that could end up being super costly, because some of our buildings are in need of pretty expensive repairs. We need to look separately.
All right, I'll see where Lorelei and the aquatics group is at as far as developing, having a budget drawn out for the things that need to be done there. I mean, obviously it's our piece of property, it's our pool. We've got to figure out what that is. I'll work with them and try to have something for next meeting.
Do they have funds that they would be willing to participate with us on the repairs on the pool, or
basically their funds are operational?
Right.
Only operational.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem when the aquatics district was formed. That was the way to keep the pool there, but the levy rate isn't such that there's enough funding to do anything other than hire the staff to run it, and even that's a stretch, right? When we look at that long term, well, we hold the title to that facility, so where does that, where does that stop? At some point, if it's fallen down, it's our problem as much as it is the aquatic district's problem, and I think it's in everybody's best interest for us to figure out how to hold hands and come up with a good solution.
We might also want to look at a prioritized list. You know, if the pool is number one, then we look at that ahead of some of the maintenance items that might wait a year or two, you know, and plan for some additional funds we can get or apply for down the road. And we're not really kicking the can down the road as long as we're aware.
That group that I've met with, we've had that discussion in regards to you can apply for this matching grant every 6 years. So it'd be worth, having a cycle of going back and taking a look at where we need to be when we can go out and do a major bond later on to build schools. So Will and I have looked a little bit on a timeline for that, and we've also had some of the costs broken out for what currently the assessment is and what it would be if we came up, if we went after $15 million, where we would be at. So we'll bring that back next meeting, if that's okay. Or if you would rather do it earlier, we could certainly meet earlier as well.
I'm fine with next meeting. I think
next meeting would be
if
fine.
That's the board's pleasure. And I think it's important, too, when we talk about maintenance, we're not talking about little things. We're talking about major systems, right? We're talking about mechanical systems or a building envelope roof system, the kind of things that have a long life. So bonding for them makes sense, right? I mean, if that equipment's going to have a 20-year service life, then we should be looking at paying for that over the service life, so new people coming to town are paying their share. I think it's also important when we look at this that we take a stab at some projections on construction excise tax funding and look at, the premise there is some of those more day-to-day maintenance things we'll be able to, they're in our master plan, they're projects, that ongoing CET funding can help with that, so we're not having to chase the bond money for that. We can save it for those really big things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. And we've been trying to address that in an organized way by doing, hey, we're doing X amount this summer of roof, X amount next summer of roof, X, biting those things off, and pretty soon you have a roof that's been done in, sections, 10 different over 10 different years.
That's not always the best approach.
Right. So, we have Lacombe that desperately needs a new roof and boiler, which is not super expensive, but we can go through boom, boom, boom. We've already done the long-term plan, and we know what the issues are in each building, and what we don't have hard prices on things, Mike, but we could certainly have an itemized list of this is where we're at and where we think it would be.
And because that ticket could run up, I'd appreciate if we just drop things off the bottom that we just know we aren't going to get there. Let's not put anything on the list that's a wish list.
Yeah,
let's stick to reality.
Yep.
So we've had somebody come in and go through all of our roofs. This was like 3 or 4 years ago, and so we had a major plan for updating, and so we have a pretty good idea what we need to do and how we need to do it to get probably 10 to 15 years down the road that we can do something else. But if we're on this 6-year cycle where we can go out and
match it.
Exactly, 50 cents on the dollar is pretty good for the community.
Yeah, and if we could get a pool that would, stretch out there 15 more years, that would give us good longevity there. We wouldn't have to revisit it for a while.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat community asset. It would be nice,
Yeah.
if we're going to name it after Jan Nate, I guess it better be a nice pool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not a kiddie pool.
Hopefully it
It's
stays
gotta be
there for a
operational.
Good point. Okay. Sounds like we're in agreement. We're willing to have some further conversation there. Okay. Thank you both.
Kim's not here for HR, but I wanted to bring to the board's attention, we're currently going through the process of trying to find a new special ed director. Jan is retiring. What we'd like to do is bring somebody on probably April, May to be able to work with her for a month or two so they can have an understanding how things work. We also have a position that we're looking at hiring that would be supervising the online school plus doing some of the communication work that we need to have done within the district. And this would be really focused on recruiting and promoting the programs that we have. So I feel like if we have the right person in this job, they're going to not only pay for their own salary, they're going to pay for us to keep a lot of employees. So I don't want to go down that road and then not have a person feel like they're being supported when they start. So if that's something that, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, you guys need to do that internally. This is a good time to raise that flag so I don't go down that road. And if we didn't find the right person, we wouldn't hire for the position. It would have to be somebody that would a difference maker.
So could we see a job description so we have their job kind of defined for us?
Sure.
Because then we know exactly what we're ordering.
Yeah.
Good point, Mike. And I think you're right. In order for the dedicated online school to be successful, it's going to need some resources there. But I think as a district, and we've seen, the challenges in effectively communicating. We've done a lot of work to get messaging out there, but that's a two-way street, right? There's getting it out there, there's encoding it, and then somebody's going to decode it on the other end. And if they both don't happen, we end up in a bad spot. So somebody that can also help us with that messaging and being
the right
out there
person is the key thing, and that's really hard to find the right person.
It is.
But that is every organization has that challenge, and some do it better than others. When you have to compete for your customers, you tend to do a better job of that. That's historically not our model, but I think there's something to be learned for us. So.
Yeah, and that's I want to be proactive in this. If we don't go out and get those 400 kids back, we're going through a RIF process. We're not going to do that. We're going to go out, compete for get those kids back, because we are going to provide them a better opportunity and a better program. So I feel very confident that we're going to have something to market. Previously, we had kind of discussions around this, I didn't feel comfortable going out and trying to do something like this because we didn't have our program well established. I feel like our distance learning program, it's evolved. We know what we don't know. We're going to redo it at the end of the year. We're going to try to get through the remainder of this year. We have great people that are involved with it, and we're going to be able to go out and do a better job supporting people kids in the community that have not been a part of the Lebanon School District, but we're also going to be able to provide the kids within Lebanon School District so many better opportunities by what we've learned through distance learning, being able to provide them access 24/7 for support, but also doing more blended learning models where your kid might be in school half a day and doing online work half a day, similar to what we're doing at Ralston Academy. And just to kind of toot their horn a little bit, Ralston Academy finished up this first semester. Their average credit was 3.125 credits per student, which would be all of that 3 credits would have been on track.
Yep.
So all those kids, because they have a group of people that are just constantly trying to figure out how to help them, they've just had incredible results. And we just have to keep improving that culture and making that across all of our programs.
Can I add something else about the communications piece for that position? One of the requirements that we have for our school investment account, the SSA, is to maintain community engagement, like robust community engagement. And this person would be a part of keeping that community engagement going, whether it be however we do it, through surveys, through communication, through forums. And so there's a piece of that grant that would be part of this person's job and funding. And that's a big chunk of money. It was reduced this year, but it will be back up to $3.4 million, and we have a lot of employees and programs that will be funded through that. So that's a part of that. Really big job too.
Okay. All right, anything else on HR? Mr. Lewis, I think you have a couple things for us.
Chairman, all of our members of the board, appreciate your time. Talk a little bit about the audit. So the auditors were scheduled for tonight, just a scheduling conflict, no issues. Bo, Jennifer, and I met with the auditors in the management exit interview, and everything's looking good, and as it should be. So they'll arrive at our next meeting in March. Okay. Wanted to bring to your attention the property that I sent an email on, and kind of talk about this a little bit and give you some perspective. So this has really moved quickly, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is because after Ruth sent out the board meeting minutes, that's how quick this property went live, and it's already got the bidding process has already begun, and winners have been selected. So I want to make sure that I'm bringing all the information to you. And talk about the property for the Lebanon High School construction project and how quickly it's moving. My request tonight is for a quick vote to see if this is something we're interested in pursuing. And the reason for that is because we don't want to spend all the time to go down the road and say we're going to purchase the property, and then on the 11th say no, we're not. So it's one of those things we got to kind of move one direction or another. So I'll kind of go through the fiscal side of it, the educational impact, and we'll go from there. $251,000 up front. We have about $251,000 in our construction account. Okay.
Convenient.
Yep. Isn't that funny? So. Here's what this is: a 1.8 acre piece of property off of Key Street, 800 Key Street. It's between 7th and Stoltz Hill, so in between there. It has a home on it now that will need to be demoed. Okay, we are estimating that it's $250,000 to $300,000. Put all of the appropriate utilities, road, demo the house, dig up the old septic. Okay. Now, we think that's a realistic number. That's also one of those things where you start digging up septic and things like that, and you realize, oh, hey, there's the other septic tank that you didn't know about. You know, all the things that you just aren't aware of. So realistically, we think it's $250,000 to $300,000. That could go up to $400,000. Just making sure we're in full disclosure there. Yes.
Well, what are you basing that assumption on? That is that coming from Udell Engineering?
Yes. Okay. So Udell did a full comprehensive look, and in my email I said it was 11. It's actually 12 lots. So when they drew out the 12 lots, there's a main street that goes down, and it's basically 6 and 6 for homes. And when they did that, they did all the assessment of what they felt. They felt it would be between a maximum 400, but it's going to be in that 250 to 300 range. So they're doing the same thing we're doing, which is hedging that and being prepared in case something comes up that we don't see. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, so just to put that in, say the number is a little bit higher, and we were 250 into the lot, and then we have the cost to annex it, extend sewer, extend primary power, tie into water, build street, curb, gutter, the whole deal. Say we're in at $600,000 all in, and we have 12 lots. That's $50,000 a lot with improvements. There's plenty of margin left just in the lot there, even if we increase by a couple $100,000 on the expenses to develop the property. There's still margin, barring, another 2008.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Even with the 2008, remember, we're in this for the long term. So at the end of the day, we don't have to sell anytime soon. So we can ride that out. Because I've thought of that. I mean, hey, the real estate market's hot right now. So what happens if we go into a little bit of a dip or recession? I think the 5 to 10 year window, we're looking pretty good on this. So I always try to, if I'm bringing something to the board, I'm at least attempting to do a win-win. Here, that's the one side. I really see this as a win fiscally. At the end of the day, we're not doing the $100,000 every year for a new lot. This is something that we can basically sell half the lots, more or less, and potentially make enough money to cover the cost of the whole thing. So that's pretty valuable. Education-wise, this is a significant opportunity for our students. I'd say there's no other school in the state that has the capacity to provide that level of opportunity. This is not swinging a hammer and building a house. This is starting from scratch, and that's a learning experience that could change a lot of lives in our community. So, and I think we're well aware of that. The other piece is this could provide affordable housing for young families. When I look in growth communities, I'm always looking for houses that young families can move into. So if we're building those houses, then at the end of the day, that's an opportunity for us to not only enhance our enrollment, but also enhance that community piece and do some work there. So that's the win-win I'm looking at: education impact and the fiscal side. Now, that being said, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. $250 in the construction account, so that pays for the initial property. We'll still need some transfers into that account to get everything rolling before. And the opportunities are endless. There's quite a few things that we've talked about. The initial 12 was actually 24, and it's townhomes. So now you sell those at $50,000 a piece times 2 times 12. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a huge difference in what we're talking about. So lots of opportunity there. I would just say straight up, we have the bid right now. So the ball's in our court. If we want to continue, we can purchase it right now. Okay.
So these are 5,500 square foot lots?
Approximately. So the way it works out, the street down the middle, 6 and 6. The corner lots are a little bigger, so they'll go for a little bit more. Because if you think of a property the way it goes straight, and you're going to have 5 homes up to here, and then it's not exactly that, but it's 4 homes up to here, 2 on the side, and then 2 in the middle, right?
Is it a big U?
Yeah.
Okay. A cul-de-sac?
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. I wouldn't want to miss out on that. And I already lost one piece of property today, so it's not like I don't want to go 0 for 2.
This is within the UGB, so that...
Is the plan to sell off to, is that the plan, the long-term plan, is to sell off half the lots to recoup our initial investment for property?
We can do that, or we can build out 12 homes. So there's the opportunity both ways.
So it's not the plan
if we need quick cash, which I don't believe we do, we can sell it. After we're done with the appropriate improvements, half, and then recoup our money, and then build the other half out.
Is that area going to have CC&Rs? Or is some kind of restrictions on putting manufactured homes in there and so forth?
Well, it would be up to us because we're developing that. It's basically a new neighborhood that we'd be developing. So if we decided that we wanted CC&Rs that said no manufactured homes, we would have the purview of doing that. And I think that's I think it would be helpful for us to have some further conversation about that because this is a little different than what we've done before. We want to make sure we're in alignment on what the vision is for that. But right now, what you need is a green light to get that. We're the high bid. We have today to confirm that we're going to move towards close. Before we close, we'll give the final approval. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The final what?
We'll give final approval before we actually close on the property. So we'll have a shot to, so the offer is contingent upon board approval prior to closing, right?
Correct.
So that's
Es-
like a contingency.
Yep, and just FYI, the escrow is $1,500, which is a great deal for us.
Because I mean, the perception, I just don't want the perception to go out there that we're developers.
Sure.
I mean, real estate's generally a good investment. So that's encouraging, and it sounds like the price is right. So have you settled on 251?
251 is, we're ready to roll with 251.
And then right now, where do you perceive the initial investment money coming from to put in the roads and the infrastructure?
Transfer from the general fund.
What's that?
A transfer from the general fund.
Oh, and that we were thinking 600,000 maybe.
No.
It wouldn't be that
total.
much.
So all in would be.
Yeah, all in, all together.
300
Two-
more.
251 coming from the construction, that pays the initial. Then you're looking at that 250 to 300, maximum 400.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece of property, and I think it really aligns with everything we're trying to do.
Well, the big piece is it secures the future of the construction program at the high school, right? Because it's, one, if there's ever been an opportunity to make it self-funding, that this is, and we're there anyway, right? We're buying the parcel with the proceeds from the last sale. So we're stepping it up a little bit in terms of development. We're going to have to front some of that, but there's a clear path to return that is going to make that a sustainable program. Potentially for the next 12 years if we decided we wanted to hang on to all of those parcels.
Yes. And over that long term, you'd still be $1 million into it because you still got to buy those lots every year. You don't have to buy those. So at the end of the day, you're still saving money from that perspective. That just goes back into profit margin rather than.
Well, I know initially we were talking about putting that $250,000 we made on the duplex into maintenance. So I mean that was kind of the discussion the board had.
Okay.
Maintenance items that now we're thinking about possibly a bond, but that's a big if also. So there is this fluctuation I'm kind of concerned about is, are we eager to spend the money? What's going on? And real estate, there was also concern by at least one board member regarding putting enough money back into the home construction program at the high school so that we were going to be able to continue, which is what this plan seems to be supporting.
Correct.
So I think this is probably a pretty solid plan, to move forward on it.
Mike, previously I think we were looking at moving those monies into doing a preschool and trying to build
Oh, right, that was the
that,
preschool.
right? And then we kind of felt like that doesn't fit the model of what we're trying to do with sixth grade, so that kind of did away with that part of it. And we were building on our own piece of property prior to that, so we never thought we weren't going to invest in the building construction program. I think if I'm the building construction teacher, I'm looking at that piece of property and thinking, the first thing I'm going to build is a shed to keep all my stuff in so I don't have to run it back and forth. And the access is so much better than what we've had any other place that it would be a pretty...
But building the preschool would have been, and you're right with that, I forgot whether it was the maintenance, and I thought the maintenance was talked about in there too, but putting the preschool up doesn't necessarily put us in a position where we could have moved on with the construction program because we have nothing to sell.
Yeah.
So
at that point,
this is a better plan for the
what we were looking at was basically Eric didn't have another project. We wanted preschool, and so I was like, man, can we make this work? Instead of going out and buying or having someone develop that, could we do it internally? And that way it'd give that program a chance to continue with what we're doing. But since we took a look at what the cost was going to be and also just, hey, we would rather have our preschools in our elementaries and our sixth graders moved out. It just became not an option. So Eric became very motivated to find land to build another house on, and this is what he was able to come up with.
Do we have the means to help design the homes?
Yeah, we have an architecture class. Marty Benedict does some of the design and engineering on that. I think they did, I'm not sure whether they did the duplex, but they did the small house that they built.
I don't think Udell Engineering employs an architect. I'm sure they don't. They're engineers, civil engineers, and surveyors. But it'd be a good opportunity to use that program to develop that program. I mean, this is a fairly big piece of land. There's a lot to develop. There's a lot of potential here, which I like. It keeps us focused in.
Yeah, and we have a group that does landscaping, and there's all sorts of arterial things that we could do.
There's the land for the new swim center.
If that's, it'd be a smaller pool. Footprint.
Yeah.
So am I hearing we're on board with Will proceeding with trying to get that parcel locked up?
So we still have an option to have the contingency and be able to bail out of a plan at the end is always a good, gives you more time to think and an option to get out at the end, or close to the end.
I think this is a great opportunity for the program. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. I agree.
Great opportunity.
So what we'll do is I will proceed with signing the documents, basically saying we're going to take the property, and then I will provide some more detailed information in the next board packet.
Sure.
So the drawings, things like that, so you guys get a good idea of what we're doing before final approval. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any questions about the financial report this month or anything like that? Okay.
If the power company hassles you, just let me know.
Right on. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. That's good news.
Okay. Thank you, Will. All right. Next up is board communication. Who wants to go first?
I don't know.
I don't have anything.
Oh, well, so on 3/8,
March 8th.
March 8th, so the day we start school, that's the day that nobody's going into prep. They're going to start school with children on the 8th, full-time, everybody.
Correct.
It won't be the high school, but it'll be everybody else.
Everybody else.
So that'll be K through 8?
Yeah, all of our K-8 schools will be going. 7 Oak will start on that same day,
And what was their original start date?
the 16th.
16.
Well, but not for
Or K
K-8.
through 3.
Yeah, that was only K through 3. So I want to be clear as we have this conversation. It's the K through 3 that had the biggest delta in schedule,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Then we were doing a more staggered approach. Now we're saying
Yeah, because
K-8 on the 8th. The following week, the high school's back in session, correct? And that is, the high school is the same timeline as it was before?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
well, we did. So previously we were having on the 8th. I think we were having freshmen, sophomores, and then we were having junior, seniors the next week.
Okay.
But they were able to operate. They were able to combine that without an issue. Yeah.
So for seniors, there's no change. It's basically, as the grades get younger is where the delta in schedule.
Yeah, that has the biggest difference. And those are the kids that we have in small group instruction more than any other as well.
Right.
We have over 500 kids that we're bringing in daily to provide support to.
So when do the teachers prep for their classroom, get it all ready to go, or are they all ready to go right now?
We're doing some Wednesdays when they're doing their asynchronous work that they'll have time to go in and so the kids are doing their online stuff on Wednesday. Am I right, Jen?
Yes. There are, this Wednesday, I can't think of the next Wednesday, which is the 17th, the 24th, and the 3rd are prep days for the teachers, so they have 3 full prep days to prepare for their in-person instruction.
Okay.
So the idea is, on the 8th, we're parachuting onto the treadmill, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no, we're not waiting for this or that. It's okay.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Yeah. So the teacher readiness will be at 100% on the 8th.
We've been doing small group instruction especially in our elementaries. So,
No, but I mean,
What do you mean by
basically all the
teacher
kids are going to show
readiness?
up on the 8th and go to school.
Correct.
yeah, we have, so our online, what we've done is moved, our class sizes are not above 20, so it's a pretty doable situation, Mike.
So that would be K through 10. Is that right?
No, it'd be K through 8.
K through 8.
And when do I thought they were going to start on Monday, Tuesday also the freshmen, sophomores.
Freshman, sophomore, or the whole high school will start the next week.
Oh, the
Yeah,
whole
they're-
high school.
Yeah, they're on a hybrid schedule, as is the middle school. So they'll be doing 2 days a week with the asynchronous in the middle.
With 2 cohorts? Or
Well, there'll be multiple cohorts. They can't be over 100, but yeah, there's a pretty specific guidelines that we have to work within to make sure that.
there'd be a cohort on Monday, Tuesday, and then a different one on Thursday, Friday?
Yes.
Or multiple cohorts within the
Or
Monday,
multiple.
Tuesday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah, Thursday,
And then we're
Friday.
trying to do some extra work on Wednesdays with kids that are struggling. Well, that's pretty much a lot of kids, so.
So when's that? I mean, what are we looking, how complex is that metric to meet so that we can have those kids back like the elementary kids are going back?
We meet the metrics right now, so we're just gonna keep pushing forward. We're seeing the numbers go down, and plus we're getting staff vaccinated, so.
So I want to
Fix
make
for
sure I'm
secondary?
following that question, though. We meet the metrics we can have K through 3 5 days a week right now,
Yep.
right? As soon as we go back. Can we do that for high school?
We can't we can't meet
For
the,
secondary, that we don't meet the cohort.
Right.
well, yeah, we have, so with our elementaries, we have kids, 20 kids in a classroom. At the high school, because they switch every period, we just can't facilitate that.
Right.
And no comprehensive high school in the state can.
Nobody can, right? That's,
So you're seeing schools, like some of the smaller school districts that have high schools of 100 or middle schools of 100 that are able to do a little bit more. But every other high school is basically, they're having kids 2 days a week rotating so they can
Right.
make that work.
Where
So-
does that put the teachers or staff for that March timeframe in regards to their vaccinations?
So they'll get their second vaccination the week before we come back. So they'll have, I think most people will be scheduled on either that Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah,
And then
second
they'll
or
start
third.
teaching on the
March.
following Monday.
And it seems to me, if I'm not mistaken, that probably the first go-around of vaccinations were happening early January, so it's possible that some people by March 8th or that window will have had their second vaccination for now several weeks.
Lynn County didn't receive, they received 100 doses for the first 3 weeks. So there was no vaccine available.
What was the vaccination process over at Lynn County Fairgrounds?
That started, what was it?
It was open for educators on March 2nd or February 2nd and 3rd.
Right. So anybody that got done prior to that, we did have some staff that went to
Yeah.
Salem and other communities that had the vaccine available earlier and got theirs, but the bulk of our staff that chose to be vaccinated, that was their earliest availability, which is what drives
They didn't
that.
do it at the end of January?
There weren't enough
That's
vaccinations.
interesting, because I went to the fairgrounds, talked to them. They had more than enough vaccinations and openings. You just had to make the appointment.
If you were in Group 1A, which
Any
educators.
educator could have gone over there. Yeah, I went over to talk to them. I said, what is going on over here?
Those friends with them.
On the calendar, I'm looking at the date I went over was January 26th. And talked to
Interesting.
them.
So I was in communication with Todd Noble, who's the Lynn County Health.
What a disconnect in our county.
and
Yeah.
so
Doesn't surprise me, but
on a weekly basis,
nothing surprises me.
tracking just, hey, when can we get staff in? When can you, my biggest fear was we wouldn't be able to get their second vaccinations done on time. But
Right.
I was reassured today that that wouldn't be a problem, so.
That seems to be moving more. I think, just like for us, the health departments are trying to figure out how to get through it. So
I don't even think within their own department they know what's going on, quite honestly.
They're very well organized over there.
They do a good
It's
job. They do
Yeah,
do a good
really
job.
good job.
an enormous task.
yeah,
Yeah.
And they've had no practical application to put that in play, right? It's like ready, set.
yeah. This is the kind of stuff that
Night outbreak at the university.
right. You plan for this, but all the plans in the world are totally different when your boots are on the ground and you're trying to work through it.
All
So
of a sudden, you're vaccinating tens of thousands. of
It's
people.
not 300 million vaccinations either, it's 600.
right.
And that even makes it more, it's just almost like, how could this possibly get done?
It's a tall order.
Effort. So, by the way, my follow-on question that I know Benita sent a letter out this week addressing that concern. That letter she sent out was dated Tuesday of this week on the LEA support. She said, I know I can't speak on for 100% of teachers, but the vast majority support the decision to postpone reopening a few weeks. Was she meaning that March timeframe or a different timeframe?
My understanding when I read that letter was that was a, thank you for making the adjustment that was made, not asking for.
Okay. That's how I.
That's
okay.
what it was, yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want to move further out.
No, at this point, there's no moving, right? One way or the other. We've done that once. We're lined up to make that work, and everybody's a go for the 8th, right?
Unless it snows on March 8th.
No, there are no snow
Why did I
days.
say that out loud?
Maybe our first time.
Snow days are canceled. We're done with those.
Or other natural
That's the
disaster.
case.
Anything
and
is
I-
possible.
I apologize, because I feel like I put you guys in a tough spot. I know you have people.
That's
that
what we
are
get paid for,
angry.
Bo, so
You
it's
don't
fine.
get paid anything. And I had some really passionate emails and calls and people that I talked to. And, at the end of the day, we're going to have to work together to make sure we're all going in the same direction. But I do want to apologize to all the parents out there that made plans and they got their kids ready to go, and then things just keep slipping further behind because everybody wants something now that is concrete and something that they feel is normal. And I would love to give that to them, and I'm hoping, we'll move forward. But I do feel I don't feel good about putting you as a board in that position, or parents, or kids, but I felt it was the best thing that we could do. And I know that some of you don't agree with that, but I appreciate your support regardless.
Well, was it February 16th a tentative date? I never understood that to be a firm date.
I think I said that was worst case scenario, actually. I was hoping that we could make that work.
I mean, I operated under the.
So March 8th, the worst case scenario is the worst case scenario. I mean, this is it.
Yeah, it's a go.
Yeah, I think we are committed to the 8th, and
Yeah.
Not May, March, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yes.
March.
Thank
Yes.
you, Mike.
Yeah. For me, when I look at that, I wanted my daughter in school months ago, right? Just like she wants to be, but part of our role is to find that right balance, and that's not easy. But when I look at a couple weeks in February and March versus 6 weeks at the end of the school year, I'm much more concerned about those 6 weeks at the end of the year, or 8 weeks, or whatever it looks like in our summer programs, and making sure, we have a lot of work to do, and that takes everybody coming together. To Bo's point, it's going to take families, that is different for a lot of families to have that opportunity to have the kids have that longer school year. But at the end of the day, whether it's in March or June, it's still time that we need. The other piece in terms of, we have an obligation, we have lots of obligations, and a lot of time they're all in alignment and it's great, but there are times when we have to look at what is best long term, and part of that decision to push back on the timeline so that our staff that chose to be vaccinated could, part of that is being a good employer and taking care of your personnel, because without them we can't do anything. I mean, our priority is our students, but that's the vehicle. So there's a balance there. It's not easy, and I can probably ramble on for far longer on that. So.
And our elementary kids, when we come back, though, we're trying to get them, 55 days, 60 days of instruction, not 25.
Right, of good quality, 5 days a week for those kids.
And things will change. I mean, as soon as we get closer to get going, things are going to change again. And I assume that once we have staff that are vaccinated, just like the rules will change, and we'll be able to have kids there longer, do things, hopefully have more leeway in what we're doing to get back to even more normalcy at that point. But nothing has gone the way that, there's nothing that has been conquered since we started this. So, but I appreciate you guys' support, and like I said, I apologize to the parents that, that were upset, and I appreciated them coming back and sharing that, they were just super disappointed, and I was disappointed for them and their kids as well.
And could I address that?
Yes, Tammy.
Sorry, I've been looking for a good place to jump in here.
You
But
found
I
it.
think part of what the parents' issues are, if I interpret it correctly, is kind of a moving of the goalposts. First it was the metrics, and then the metrics came in, and then it was the vaccine availability. And so they were promised one date, and then there was a meeting where they changed the rationale for the return date. And I understand that decision happened as it happened, but when you say you want to work together, I think it's really important that you figure out how to roll the parents into that discussion. So one meeting with a set of admins is not going to represent what the parents want, even though the parents won't get what they want, and maybe they wouldn't get what they want in that meeting. I think the misstep was not including them. We have the ability to do that through parent-teacher groups, or even through the most interested parents who have raised their hand and say they want to participate. Students also were not included as even having an opinion. So I fully understand where the parents are coming from when, again, I think the goalposts were moved. It was somewhat arbitrary, and if we don't want that pushback from the parents, that's where the board does come into play. That's where you call the board in to say this is a decision we have to make, and you don't have to make that hard decision or deal with those opinions that are pretty, I don't know, that I felt that we had some parents who were pretty active on that, and I don't blame them one bit, because it felt like the goalpost shifted. So my question and my hope after all of this is that when you say we're ready to go on a date, are these vaccines guaranteed? Are the teachers guaranteed, staff guaranteed to go take them? And if they don't, if they choose or say that they don't want to do that, are we still going to open on that date, or are we going to move the goalpost again?
When teachers went in to get their first round of vaccine, they were given a date for their second round and scheduled. I confirmed today that those vaccinations are available for them. So yeah, we plan to move forward. The rationale for moving the goalposts basically was I did want to follow the governor's guidance, We were provided opportunity to have our staff vaccinated, but then the vaccine wasn't available. And then the vaccine was available. So once it became available, it became a different set of variables, and that's why the goalpost moved again. And like I said, I apologize for that.
And moving forward, if this happens again, is there a plan to involve some sort of a parent group?
Well,
I don't think, was there a board member in on that meeting?
So Tammy, I would suggest that if something happens such that March 8th becomes a problem, we're going to call a special board meeting, and there'll be an opportunity to engage with the groups you mentioned.
I just want to avoid what happened the last couple weeks.
I think you speak for everybody in the room.
Perfect. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I do have one thing. Todd isn't here tonight. He wanted me to let you know that he had just a medical thing going on, so we hope to see him at the next meeting. He expressed his regrets for not being able to be here and told me to share that was the reason why. So there you are. So
All right.
we look forward to seeing you next time, Todd.
You get better.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, it was nice to see everybody in person. I think we have some. I appreciate Alicia making the cell phone work and Tammy calling in.
We have some gifts for you guys.
We may talk to the city and see if there's some other ways to get Zoom working in a more hybrid model in here. That's a little bit tricky, but I don't think we're going to be back to regular anytime soon.
So these are the stuff that the welding shop did.
That was very cool.
Yeah, so make sure you take yours with you. And
All right.
yeah, thank you so much for serving on the board and taking the time to do this great work. It's appreciated.
Well, I have my spot for that already picked out.
Is it in your new shop?
It is on a wall that got insulated today and gets drywalled on
I
Monday.
have one right at the top of my stairway.
Yep.
Not one of these, because I didn't know these existed, but we had one made.
So these are very nice, and I appreciate the welding shop making those for us. So. All right, well, I think we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good night, Tammy.